The Nockamixon Disc Golf Course is well known for its elevation changes, rocky terrain, and winding fairways. Today is the day of the 2016 Nockamixon Championship, and to see who the champ will be, stay tuned as Disc Golf Monthly starts now. Thank you for tuning in to this month's edition of Disc Golf Monthly. This month we are covering the 2016 Nockamixon Championship at Nockamixon State Park in Quakertown, PA. The course at Nockamixon State Park is one of the most challenging courses in eastern Pennsylvania. With elevation changes on almost every hole, water hazards, and large and small boulder fields, this course is one that will truly improve your game with every time that you play. The course was designed and installed in the early 2000s by members of the Lehigh Valley Disc Club. In 2005, it was included as one of the courses for the PDGA Pro Worlds. Now let's take a look at who will be on the lead card today at the 2016 Nockamixon Championship. And in first place, shooting a 60, we have Devin Frederick from Hellertown, PA. In second place, shooting a 61, we have Aaron Fahey from Philadelphia, PA. And in third place, shooting a 62, we have Brian Schweberger from Tarboro, North Carolina. And in fourth place, shooting a 63, we have Andy DeFranzo from Coatesville, PA. This is going to be a highly competitive group. This is Brian Schweberger's first time coming back to this course since the 2005 Pro Worlds. He'll be facing off against local Devin Frederick, who has a tremendous amount of course knowledge. Aaron Fahey from Philadelphia's Sedgley Woods course will also be on the card, as well as Andy DeFranzo. Devin will definitely be the one to watch to win this tournament with his years of experience of navigating the fairways. But if Brian Schweberger can use his thumber to his advantage, along with a consistent putting game, he can make things difficult for Devin. We also have to keep a lookout for Aaron Fahey. His game can get wicked hot with an incredibly straight shot and long putts. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we will be bringing you coverage for the Men's Open lead card. Don't go away, we'll be right back. And we're back at the start of the second round here at the 2016 Nockamixon Championships. We see Devin Frederick that has a one-stroke lead over Aaron Fahey, followed by Brian Schweberger and Andy DeFranzo. Here we are on basket one. This is a par 5. It's 821 feet. We have Devin with his drive. This hole, you have to throw a relatively straight shot for about 100 to 150 feet. And from there, the fairway takes a leftward bend. You have to be careful in this hole with your drive that it carries the distance to where the bend starts. If you hyzer off to left too early, you'll end up in some very thick rough and have a very difficult time getting back out onto the fairway. This fairway will take a leftward bend almost practically straight up to the basket. And here is Brian with his second throw. He felt he cut that a little too early, but it looked like he's going to be okay. Here's Devin going with a flick shot. He's going to try and turn that over, and he does. And he hit a tree. Now here we have Aaron Fahey with his second drive. And he hits an early tree. Andy DiFranzo. Very challenging second drive. He gets very good distance. And it seems like that will work for him. He has some close trees to contend with, but he gets through them. And he's going to hyzer off to the left a little bit. He could be in the rough. We'll have to see where that leaves him. There's Brian going with a turnover flick shot. He may have, oh, he looked like he threw that perfectly. That may fade back into the rough here on him. Devin's going with another turnover flick shot for his third throw. There's Aaron Fahey also going with a turnover flick shot. And Devin will be putting for par with that approach shot. Here's Andy with his third throw. If he throws this right, he could get a birdie.
Nice shot.
And he may very well get a birdie with that nice approach shot. Here's Brian with his fourth throw. And he just lays up. That should putt. There's Aaron with his bogey putt. He's putting for bogey here. And it gets a little too high. This is the basket completely. And Brian putts for par. And we have Andy DiFranzo did make the birdie. Aaron Fahey with the double bogey drops to the bottom of the card. Moving on to basket 2. This is a par 4, 485 feet. We have Devin with his first throw in basket 2.
No. Can we still pokes?
Looks like that got him pretty far down the fairway. There's Brian with his drive. That was a very great shot, very low. Here's Aaron Fahey's drive. There's that relatively flat low, but it just gets knocked down a little early. Now we have Aaron with his second shot. He's going to try to flick this. And he turns that over and just hits a tree. Kicks him out to the right. Here's Andy DiFranzo playing out of a little ditch. He's going to try and turn over his shot, and it just doesn't work for him. Gets cut down early by some trees. Here's Brian with his second shot. Everybody has some tight grouping of trees to contend with here as you approach the basket. You have to be careful as you move your way up the fairway. There is a creek that runs through the fairway. You have to be careful. Players are getting close to that area right now. Andy DiFranzo with his birdie shot. And that should put him close to the basket. There's Aaron Fahey.
Are you right there, Dan?
Very close to making that putt. We have Devin. And Devin just misses the putt. That would have been for birdie if he'd have made that. Here's Andy with his par attempt, and he makes it. Brian's putting for birdie. He'll move ahead of Andy. He'll be one behind Devin if he makes this putt. And he makes it. So Devin is still in first place by 1 stroke, followed by Brian, who made the birdie, has a 70. And we're moving on to basket 3. This is a par 3, and it's 252 feet in length. This is a uphill shot. A thumber, which looks like Brian's going to throw here, is a very ideal shot. And he throws that perfectly in that gap to the left of that grouping of trees.
Come on, stop. It hit something.
And that should
Yeah, it
skip
only went-
very close to the basket for him. And he looks like he's going to go with his right-hand backhand here and play that gap off to the right of that group of trees. And he does the opposite, throwing a turnover shot, which gets kicked off to the left. We see Devin with his first throw. He looks like he's also going to go with a turnover shot. And he throws that nicely. It's turning and kicks off a tree. But it does look as though that's going to give him a shot at a birdie. There's Aaron with his drive. He also goes with a right-hand turnover shot, and he kicks off a tree. And Andy's just going to try to lay up here and get his 3. And he did so nicely. And Aaron lays up. He'll take a 3 as well. Devin's going to try and run at this. And he makes it. So Brian must make his next putt in order to stay 1 stroke behind Devin, as he's putting for birdie as well. And he makes the putt. That'll give him a 2-stroke lead over Andy DeFranzo. As Andy putts for par. And he makes the putt. And now we're moving on to basket 4. This is a par 4. It's 670 feet. This is a hole where you must throw your drive as straight as possible. Players don't want to have their disc go to the left because there's thick rough. Now, if it goes to the right, there is 2 steep drop-offs. It's not too bad if you find yourself going down to the right to the first drop-off, but should your disc go too far right and you get on the second drop-off, that's where it gets really ugly. And Devin's drive is turning, and he gets kicked back out onto the fairway. He's at a very good spot. They're playing to the long pin position on this hole. Here's Andy's drive. He gets it up high, and he's going out into that rough off to the left. He may have kicked out. I saw a little bit of movement with some of that vegetation, so he may have been kicked out close to the fairway. Here's Aaron with his drive, and he throws a low shot. It's turning nicely for him. If he gets a skip, which he didn't get, that would have been very nice if he'd have gotten a little skip at the end. Aaron's now going with his second shot. He keeps this shot low. This is very nice. He could get a birdie out of this depending upon where his drive is landed. Here's Brian with his second throw. Brian's disc hires out a little early, but he got kicked back out into the middle of the fairway. Here's Andy with his second drive. And he played that very nicely. He got a very nice amount of turn, good distance. Devin's going with a turnover flick shot again. And that kicked off a tree a little early for him. Here's Brian with his third throw. He's in the center of the fairway. he's just going to go for the placement shot.
Nice whip.
And that should work for him. He should get his par. And Devin's approach shot, that should also get him par. And Aaron's making a birdie run, and he gets it. And here's Andy putting for birdie. This he could put in one behind Brian, and he makes it. And now he is going to be one stroke behind Brian Schweberger. Brian's putting for par here. He's got a little uphill to deal with. And he makes it. If he'd have missed that, he would have ended up tied with Andy. And Devin putts for par.
2 3s and 2 4s on this. Oh, that's disgusting.
So we have a one-stroke difference between our top 3 players on this card. We're moving on to basket 5. This is a par 3, 310 feet. This is the second of 3 par 3 holes that are on the front 9. This is a very tight gap that they have to play through. As you can see, the basket is to the left of a creek, which is down below. And Andy played that very close to that tree. And here's Aaron's drive. He's also going a right-hand backhand shot. And he gets right down the center.
Ooh. Come on.
He gets a lot of distance before the disc begins turning.
Okay.
That looks to be very close to the basket. He may have an easy birdie on this hole as a result of that very nice drive. Here's Brian with his drive. And he gets a little close to that tree off to the right, but that's playing nicely for him. Good distance before it starts turning.
Yep. Nice shot.
And he's about where Aaron's drive landed. And here's Devin with his drive. Devin throws a very high shot, catches some vegetation hanging from up above. In spite of that, he got decent distance. He could make this putt. And he hits it. So Brian must make his birdie putt to maintain that one-stroke distance. Andy also makes the putt for birdie. So now Brian must make this putt to keep himself from being tied with Andy DeFranzo. And he makes it. And here's Aaron following up with his birdie putt out of that very nice drive. And that was a star frame. Everybody birdied that hole. And now we're going to be moving on to basket 6. This is a par 4, 555 feet. This is an uphill shot, as you can see. Plays to the right. There's thick vegetation as you go up the fairway to the right. Players want to avoid that.
Get off that. Yes.
And that was a very nice drive. Andy put his drive about exactly where you want that to be. He should have a very strong chance of getting a birdie on this hole. And Brian, he's going with the thumber. And that was very nice. And Devin with his drive, he looks like he's going to throw a turnover shot. And he does. And that gets very nice penetration up the fairway before it begins turning. That was an excellent drive. Here's Aaron. He's very close to the edge of the fairway. He's Gonna have to deal with that vegetation
Yeah.
I told you about earlier. Here's Andy with his third throw rather. And here's Brian's second shot. Brian's going to throw a turnover shot, very high. And that looked like that got very close. We'll have to see where that left him. Here's Devin with his approach after that amazing drive with a flick shot, which is turning nicely with a good skip. That'll get him very close to the basket. And here we have Aaron with his third throw. And Aaron almost gets the birdie. Now it's going to roll away on him, but it gets stopped after hitting a tree. Here's Andy for his third throw. And he just hits it right off the number sign. That's very unfortunate. Here's Brian putting for birdie after that fantastic approach shot. And he makes it. So this is going to put the pressure on Devin to make his next putt. And Aaron makes his putt for par. And Devin's now putting for birdie. And he makes it, and he maintains that one-stroke lead over Brian. And with that birdie, Brian now has a two-stroke lead once again over Andy. We're moving to basket 7. It's a par 3, 479 feet. This is the last of the 3 par 3 holes on the front 9. Brian is driving first. This is a new pin position. And Brian throws a very nice straight shot. It's going to hyzer back not soon enough from the looks of things. Looks like he got caught in that vegetation. This new pin placement is about 80 feet further back from the original pin position. It's up on a hill from this ravine, this gap here. It continues to be a par 3 hole. And Andy's drive just cuts off a little early. He's in some heavy rough over there. And Aaron with his drive. He threw that very nicely. He almost got all the way down to where the short pin is located. Now we see the basket in front of us. And that was a perfect approach shot. And Aaron with his second throw. Aaron just does not get it high up enough. Here's Brian's third throw. And he lays up. It looked like he was actually going for it, but he just hires it out a little early. And here's Aaron. His also fade out a little early. And he's putting for par. And he just doesn't make it. Aaron is now putting for bogey. Very tough hole. Devin is the only one who managed to shoot for par in that hole. We're moving on to basket 8. This is a par 4. It's 552 feet in distance. This is a very challenging layout. You must keep your drive straight. If it hyzers out too early, you could find yourself in a water hazard, which there's 2 ponds that are off to the left. And should your drive go off to the right, there's a large boulder field, which will make it very difficult for you to find where your drive is landed. There's Andy with his drive. He keeps it low. Let's see if he gets a good skip. He gets somewhat of a nice skip. They get some extra distance out of it. Here's Andy. He's throwing with his second throw. He kicks off a tree and very close to the edge of that boulder field. Here's Devin with his second throw. He's going with a sidearm shot. He's going to try and turn it over from the looks of things a little bit, and he kind of does it. Oh, he almost got out onto the fairway, just got struck down by a tree there at the very end. Here's Brian with his second throw. Brian throws a turnover shot. Gave him some very decent distance. Here's Devin with his third throw. Have to be careful with your approach shot. As you can see, there's the water from the pond just beyond the basket. There's Andy. And Andy goes with a jump putt. And Aaron is putting for par. And he makes it. And Devin also putts for par. And with that hole, Brian is now 2 strokes behind Devin after hole 7. We're moving on to basket 9. This is a par 4, 567 feet. And there's Devin's drive. He plays that very nicely. This hole plays the opposite direction from hole 1. Hole 1 took a leftward bend with the fairway. The fairway in this hole takes a rightward bend, and it wraps around the pond. If players aren't happy with their drive, they can opt to try to throw over that pond as a shortcut to get to the basket. And Andy's in a tough spot with his second throw. He's in very thick vegetation. He's going to throw a very high turnover shot. That's going to give him some okay distance. Brian looks like he's also going to throw a backhand turnover shot, and he does. We didn't hear anything, so that was a very good second shot. This is a very tough approach, very thickly spaced trees to get to the basket. And Andy almost made it out completely. He just got struck down there at the very end. Here's Aaron, who had the furthest drive out of the group. That's a very nice second shot. And that's going to get Devin very close where he could be shooting for par with that approach shot. Here's Brian. He had a tough shot. And Aaron just lays up. And that will putt for him. There's Andy putting for par. It's a very long par. And it just doesn't stay up long enough for him. Brian with a very long par attempt. He caught some vegetation up. And Brian makes the putt. And here's Devin with a drop-in par. He's now going to take a 3-stroke lead over Brian Schweberger. So Devin's lead is now getting more and more comfortable. Aaron and Andy are now tied for third place. Here's Devin with his drive. He's throwing a right-hand backhand turnover shot. It just doesn't turn soon enough for him, and he hits a tree just off the edge of the fairway. Here's Aaron with his drive. Aaron is also looking to throw a right-hand backhand turnover shot, and he does. And this also doesn't turn soon enough for him. He kicks off a tree as well. Brian is going to do the same here. And his disc is going to fade out a little too early. He's going to go in the vegetation off to the left. Here's Andy with his drive. Andy's disc is also going to fade out. He's going to go into that vegetation off to the left. And Devin's going to throw a sidearm shot with his second shot. It looked like that gave him a really good skip. Here's Brian. He's looking to throw a thumber out of the rough. And he does. Let's see how much penetration this gives him. He just gets knocked down early. It was very close to the basket. Just have to see where that leaves him with his birdie shot. And Andy throws an overhand shot to get out of the rough. Devin makes a run at it. He will make the next putt. Here's Brian putting for birdie. Brian needs to get a little more aggressive here to try to pick up those 3 strokes. And that won't do it. Here's Aaron putting for birdie. And he makes the putt. And he needs to make this putt or he will give up third place to Aaron. And he doesn't make it. So Aaron will now have third place all to himself. As Andy does make the putt for par. So he will only be 1 stroke behind Aaron. And now we're moving on to basket 11. This is a par for 414 feet. This is an uphill shot. Aaron's throwing a flick shot. And Devin is going to throw a backhand shot very high. Catches off a tree, gets knocked down a little early. Here's Brian with his drive. And Brian throws a backhand turnover shot as well. He's in the center of the fairway. Here's Andy with his drive. He gets his shot a little low. He's not going to get as much distance, but he is in the center of the fairway. He's going to play off to the left.
There you go.
Very dangerous, but it worked for him. He will have a putt for possible 3 after that. And Brian is throwing a thumber. And that looked like that was in a very good spot for him. Here's Devin with his second shot. Very small group of trees to contend with. And he lays up. And that worked for him very nicely. He should get his putt for birdie from there. Here's Aaron throwing his second shot. He just did not have enough distance to make it. And Andy putts for birdie. Devin makes his birdie putt as well. And Brian makes his putt for birdie. Everybody shoots for birdie on this hole. And now we're moving on to basket 12. This is a par 4, 527 feet. This is Aaron's first drive. He kicks off the tree very early. Here's Devin with his drive. Devin's throwing a turnover shot. It turned over a little too early for him. Brian looks like he's going to go with a thumber here. And he does. Got a little high. And here's Andy. He looks like he's also going to go with a turnover shot. And he does.
Get off of it. Oh, go, baby. Go.
And that got really great penetration down the fairway. Here's Aaron with his next shot. And you see the pin position. Spatially gapped trees is what you have to contend with here at this point. And Devin with a very nice approach shot. He will have a very good chance of getting a birdie on this hole. Brian kicks off an early tree and gets kicked off into the rough. Here's Andy's second shot after that fantastic drive. He throws a very nice approach shot that's going to fade off a little bit to the left, but he should make that putt. Here's Brian with his third shot. He throws a thumber, and it rolls back on him. He's going to have a tough putt for par after that. And it's just a little low. It bounces off the cage. Here's Aaron with his birdie putt. And he's putting for birdie. If Andy makes this, and he does, he's now tied once again with Aaron. And now Devin has a 5-stroke lead over Brian. We're moving on to basket 13. This is a par 3, 246 feet. Devin throws a very straight shot right down the gap.
Good shot.
That should give him a chance for another birdie. And here's Aaron with his drive attempt. And Aaron kicks off an early tree. Brian looks like he's going to throw another thumber. And he does.
Sorry, Ken.
Here's Aaron putting for par, and he makes it. He will continue to be tied with Andy. Here's Brian for his birdie attempt. And Devin's putting. Devin needs to make this to maintain that 5-stroke lead over Brian. And he does. So 2 birdies and 2 pars. We're moving on to basket 14. This is a par 5, 803 feet. This is the second of the 2 par 5 holes on the course. Here's Devin with his drive. If there's a shot that turns over way too early and he kicks off a tree. And here's Brian. Brian needs a really good drive here to try to get back in this. It's going to be tough. There's not a lot of holes left. He's got a 5-stroke difference, and Brian's going to throw a backhand roller, which is going to work very well for him. He's coming right at us, and he just rolls up off the tree. That's a fantastic drive. And here's Andy's drive. And he's going to throw a turnover shot. It just did not get far enough for him to get out of that group of trees. And here's Aaron with his drive. He's going to go with a sidearm shot. This isn't going to give him much distance. If he'd have gotten a skip there, that probably would have got him out of that group of trees. Here's Devin trying to make up for that drive. And it barely gave him enough distance. He's on his 3rd throw.
Shot.
He threw that right through that very tight gap. And that will make up for that drive. That was a fantastic shot. Here's Aaron with his 2nd shot. He's going to throw a forearm roller, which is going to roll straight up the fairway. And that will work for him. Here's Andy with his 2nd throw. Brian with his next throw. That gave him some decent distance, but not as much as he was hoping for. There's Devin with his 4th throw. And he just gets knocked down early. Here's Brian with his 3rd throw. And Brian's going to throw a roller.
Oh, man.
It's going to get way far up there. We'll have to see where that leaves him. That's dangerous. There's a very steep, sudden drop-off beyond the basket. If your disc should roll down, it's possible it could go out into the road, which is OP. That's beyond the basket. And he hits another early tree. Aaron's getting very frustrated. Now he's putting for bogey, and it just kicks off the top of the basket. Here's Brian putting for par.
Oh, you putted it,
And he
roll
just
back down.
hits it off the cage. It was unfortunate. He's going to pick up a stroke on Devin with that. But he could have picked up 2 strokes if he made that putt. So now Devin has a 4-stroke lead. As we move on to basket 15, this is a par 3, 363 feet. This is definitely a right-hand, backhand-friendly hole.
I hit my foot on that.
Players have to be careful. Just beyond the basket, the basket sits on a hill with some heavy downhill elevation.
So freaking scared about hitting my foot on it.
Brian kicks off an early tree. And here we have Andy with his drive.
Flip.
He's going to get some very straight shot, but just not enough distance. Here's Devin with his first shot. And Devin got some very decent distance. Here's Andy with his drive.
Yours is just lifting and hanging up there.
Brian with his second shot. He's just going to try and lay up. You have to be careful in this hole. It's very easy to throw your disc and then it'll stand up and roll all the way down the hill. Even on your putts, you have to be careful. And he's running up to see where his disc landed to make sure it didn't roll down the hill. He looks very relieved. Here's Devin. And this is a very scary putt. It's very easy to miss and roll down the hill.
Yeah.
And Aaron makes the putt. Now Brian's having to play back up the hill to get his par. And Brian makes the putt for par.
All the waves off the boat line.
Devin with a short putt makes the putt. He also gets par. So everyone picks up a par in this hole. There's no change in the lead. We're moving on to basket 16. This is also a par 3. This is the last of the par 3 holes on the course. 438 feet. There's a total of 6 par 3 holes on this course. Here's Brian's drive. This is a hole where you have to get just the right amount of distance. There's very heavy rough if you come up short on your drive. There's also heavy rough off to the right should your disc have too much turn when you throw it off the tee. Right in front of the basket is protected by a group of cedar trees. This is a very tricky par 3 hole to get a deuce. And Devin got a lot of turn off that drive. He's going to have to be careful. He may have come down in that area off to the right with the heavy rough that I talked about earlier. Here's Aaron with his drive. And Devin did get caught up in that heavy rough that you see in front of you. He throws an overhand shot. We'll have to see where that leaves him. And Brian, he's making his birdie attempt.
Stay up.
And he makes it.
Nice.
So with that, we'll have a two-stroke difference between Devin and Brian. So Brian now has a little bit of life left in him here with 2 holes to go. We're on basket 17. This is par 4, 501 feet. Brian's going to go with a thumber off the tee.
Yeah, you just did that, you big dummy.
And here's Andy with his drive. Right here we have Devin with his drive. Devin needs to really come up strong here.
Boom. Great shot.
Boom.
He needs to get a great drive. Try to hold off Brian. Cut Brian's momentum. Here's Brian's second shot. Here he's going to go with a roller. Doesn't look like that got him enough distance. We'll have to see where Devin's shot put him. Here's Andy's second shot.
Go.
Long basket.
All right.
Yeah.
And Andy was playing to the wrong basket. This is a new basket position. They are not playing to the traditional hanging basket position. There's a newer pin position that's off to the right. Here's Devin's second shot. He got a fantastic drive. And that looks like he's going to get a great placement shot. So he may actually pick up a stroke on Brian. Here's Andy trying to play back to the right basket, which is right there. And with that, Devin picks up another stroke on Brian. He's back to a 3-stroke lead with 1 hole to go. This is par 4, 730 feet. This is a shot that plays relatively straight. And as the fairway opens up, you want to take a dogleg turn to the left. Devin barely makes it out of that group of trees. There's a cedar tree as you go to the left that you have to avoid. And then as you approach the basket, there's a very thick grouping of trees, which is going to make it hard for you to make an approach shot. Brian makes it out. Now we have Andy with his drive. He's going to get a very nice amount of turn, a little too much turn. He's going to get out. He's going to get just enough distance. That's perfect drive. Here's Aaron's drive. He's going to turn off a little early. Here's Devin with his second shot. Devin got a little low. There's Aaron with his second shot.
Slip.
Might get away with it.
It totally made me pull it.
Here's Brian with his second shot. And Andy with that nice, fantastic drive follows up with a very nice approach shot. He could be putting for birdie. Here's Brian on his third shot. He's in a very good spot. And he just lays up perfectly. Devin's making his third throw. Devin doesn't need a lot to win this. That will put him in contention to get his par and walk away from this with a 3-stroke lead for the win. Here's Andy DeFranzo with his birdie attempt.
Yeah.
And he makes the birdie.
Finish.
With a fantastic drive, followed by an amazing approach shot. He gets the 3. That's a tough, very tough accomplishment on this 730-foot hole. Aaron lays up. And here we have Devin for the win. Shooting for par. And he is the champion.
Yar.
Congratulations to Devin Frederick on winning the first Nockamixon Championship. We're going to take a quick break. Please don't go away. We'll be right back. Well, Devin definitely showed his knowledge of this course as he had the lead and never gave it away. Brian made things interesting on the front nine, pulling to 1 stroke of tying the lead and maintaining that distance through much of the front nine. But as the back nine approached, Devin's lead grew larger and larger. Andy DeFranzo held on to the 3rd spot for much of the round. Aaron struggled with multiple bogeys to finish a distant 4th place on the card. Well, that's all the time we have for this month's edition of Disc Golf Monthly. Disc Golf Monthly, the show that takes you one step closer to the exciting sport of disc golf.